Oh, wait.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to. Did you want to start us, Jen?
No, I wanted
We're out of
us.
practice doing this. This is Chris Christensen, and welcome to This Week in Travel. And the person who's trying to take over already, it's a power struggle with Gary out someplace in Central Asia, is Jen Leo. Welcome to the show, Jen.
Good morning, everybody. I was just going to, I was going to help Don with his lower third, but you just hit the live button so fast.
We're going live. We got places to go and things to do here.
All right.
But as you mentioned, we have with us two guests today. One is Don George, who has joined us, and we'll be talking more with Don, and also Johnny Jett. So welcome back to the show, gentlemen. I know you've both been on before. We are a little crunched for time, so we're going to jump right into some news stories, and we're going to introduce Johnny and Don. Yes, later on. Well, I'd like to say it's a little bit of a surprise perhaps to people in New York City, but they have lost the honor of one of the, they've lost the honor as the rudest city in America, according to a recent poll, and that honor has gone to Miami. How many of you were surprised? How many of you want to vote for some other city?
I'm not surprised. First of all, I don't think New York is the rudest, but Miami is full of New Yorkers, so maybe I'm wrong here. I don't know. But it's filled with New Yorkers and Brazilians.
Well, this is a travel and leisure poll, we should say. And, you know, I wasn't too surprised with Miami. I haven't been there in a long time. I haven't spent a lot of time there. But, you know, it has some... I was a little more surprised, honestly, that Phoenix made the number 2 slot.
That was very surprising to me. I mean, Phoenix,
top
really
top
rude.
4 are Miami, Phoenix, New York City, and Los Angeles. Los Angeles, I figured it's the drivers.
Well, New York is definitely the rudest drivers. Not New York, sorry, Miami. South Florida are the worst drivers in America. Hands down.
Really feel yeah. Well, yeah, I wondered about that too, because I think New York still does have the reputation as being rudest, but I think the city, honestly, I think the city changed after 9/11.
Yeah. I agree, Chris.
There was something real, you know, different about that, you know, horrific experience that really caused a lot of New Yorkers, I think, to come together more. And it's still a city that, if you're an introvert, it's a little bit of hell. You know, as much as I like New York now, it doesn't intimidate me as much as it used to. But it can be a challenge. But yeah, I don't think it.
Well, they walk fast, they talk fast.
Oh yeah.
I think New Yorkers. I was in New York recently. They walk fast, they talk fast. They've got places to go, things to do. But if you're in trouble, they will go out of their way to help you, which I think is admirable. I like New York.
Well, you know, and the walk fast and talk fast, I think that's the reason why New York doesn't intimidate me anymore. Is I listen to podcasts at double speed, and I think that's normal.
Good
so
point.
I think of places like, we had a friend who went down to Texas, and she taught in Texas for a while, and she was just speaking at, I think, a California clip, not even a New York clip, and people would just look at her like they could not understand her. She learned to swing her arm like a metronome to slow herself down, her speech. Today, we're going to be talking about... And, you know, we just do talk at different rates in different parts of the country. And apparently we drive very differently, and I'm with Johnny on that one.
Yeah, it's funny because when my dad's sitting across from me right now, by the way, and when we travel, we'll be in California walking down the streets, and someone walks right by us real fast. He's like, that person must be from New York, and he says it loud enough so they can hear. and they usually turn around and say, yes, I am.
Well, let's take a minute to say hi to the big man. Hi, big man.
He can't hear you, but say hi, Dad. Say hi.
Hi, big man.
Just wave.
Hi, Dad.
I was in New York in February, and my cousins live there. And on my cousin's living room wall was a framed dollar bill, very similar to like what you would see in a restaurant. You know, when they frame their first dollar or something like that. Yeah. And I asked her about that because I thought, oh my gosh, is she into some business I hadn't heard of yet? And I said, what's this dollar bill doing here? And she said, it's a reminder to her about how much money it takes to live in New York, and how, you know, she definitely has to have a focus to, if they want to stay there, they have to really, really work hard to keep it up. I thought that was interesting.
as we get more serious, actually, the second story comes from my daughter. My daughter works in a nonprofit. Actually, she works for the Sabin Vaccine Institute. So she's out trying to save the world from underfunded tropical diseases. And she sent me this story, which is not about underfunded tropical diseases, but sex trafficking, and how you as a traveler can help track down sex traffickers, which this would have never occurred to me. There is a crowdsourced photo database and an app called Trafficking, Traffick Cam, that you can load, and all they ask is when you go stay in a hotel, take a picture of the hotel and upload it to this database.
4 pictures.
4 pictures, yeah. They're different views.
And without people in it.
And without people in it, right? And you're not taking a picture of sex trafficking in your hotel room. That's an entirely different app. But what they're doing is, as somebody is a pimp, basically, is taking one of these, sex workers who are being trafficked and showing them off in a hotel room. They're going to detect which hotel it's in, so they can basically send somebody to arrest them.
Oh, wow.
So
it's just amazing to me. This is such a different world. I am not even aware that this goes on, and yet I know when we had the Super Bowl in Santa Clara, they were talking about how much of this would be going on in my neighborhood.
I wrote about this a month ago or whatever. 300,000 Americans are being sex trafficked, and the girls are usually between the ages of 13 and 15, which is insane.
Yeah.
So,
and you can help. And both of these parts of the story, I think, were just amazing to me. So I did want to bring that up.
But the hotels should do it themselves. They should be uploading it.
Oh, that's an interesting
point, Johnny. Great point.
Yeah,
so.
True.
Excellent. Before we get into what's going on with you gentlemen, anybody have one of these other news stories you want to grab?
I got plenty of stories. Let's take a look.
You want stories? I got stories.
Well, how about one that just came out? This is a little controversial. Bahamas issues a travel advisory to their citizens to travel to the U.S. They say make sure that the men are careful about coming here because they're black.
I saw that. I read that the other day.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
it's sad. It's sad.
It's pretty sobering.
And Johnny, weren't they talking about Chicago? Didn't they point out Chicago or something in that article?
I didn't read the article. I just saw the title. But also, the UAE has now told their nationals not to wear their what do you call it?
Their dress.
Their whole traditional outfit while they're visiting America, because one of them was on a cell phone outside of a motel in Ohio, and the clerk called the police, and 5 cops came, and they thought he was ISIS, and he was on the cell phone just speaking Arabic.
Well, we've had that. Wow. We've had the stories on this show about it happens to somebody, and he's a Sikh. He's wearing a turban, and he's not even Arabic. He's not. It's just like we don't even know. So. Yeah.
I don't want to get political, but I think Trump's getting everyone crazy.
Well, everyone's getting crazy. Well, I don't know about everybody, but we are seeing more craziness. There's no question about that.
Yep.
Speaking of Trump, there was an article last month about his hotels are launching a new lifestyle brand, and it sounds like they are going to take off the Trump moniker.
They are losing money. Their sales are down. The last number I saw was 40%.
Really?
If you think about
58%. 58%. Last I saw. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Basically, well, honestly, and I'll get political. It's my show. I can do that. So I had the PR firm write to me and say, hey, we're doing some deals at the Trump Hotel, and wouldn't you like to write about it? And I wrote back and said, well, first of all, I don't write about hotel deals because they don't have very good shelf life, and just as a rule, I don't write about them because I write about things that are long-term value. And then also, no way in hell am I promoting the Trump name. So okay, well, thank you. So they're definitely seeing a backlash for the business. So
I got married.
If they're smart, they would take the name off for the hotels.
That's right, you did, Johnny, in Toronto.
Yeah. Johnny. It is a beautiful hotel.
It is beautiful.
And Trump, he doesn't run it. It's his daughter who really runs it more. But
many of the things that have the Trump name, he's actually just selling them the Trump name. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons why he hasn't announced his financials. Is I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by them who haven't really looked into that. Yeah. So, well, anyway, let's talk about what's going on with you gentlemen. Don, you've got a conference coming up again.
I do. It's the 25th anniversary of the Book Passage Travel Writers and Photographers Conference.
Congratulations,
kind of astonishing.
Don.
Big time.
Thank you. I was a teenager when it started, apparently.
And I don't want to give any credit how hard it was to do tech support to get Don on this, but I was no longer a teenager.
Yeah,
how has the
exactly.
conference changed over 25 years, Don? Have the attendees changed? Do they have different goals?
Making money now.
Absolutely. I mean, as you know, the whole world has changed so much in 25 years. The travel publishing world has changed so much. We have a lot more focusing on online writing now, and developing your blogger portfolio and platform, and really becoming a social media brand, and we have a lot devoted to that now, which we didn't have 25 years ago.
Yeah.
And we still have great writers coming back and talking about what they do and how they do it, but we also have a lot more devoted to the whole new world of digital writing, publishing, branding. And so, I mean, it's fun. It's fun because it keeps us abreast of the times. And
so maybe I can come this year.
It's really remarkable to me.
I've never been allowed in.
Say what?
Maybe I'll be allowed in now, since my writing hasn't been that great, but my branding's pretty good.
Branding's excellent.
You have a free pass. Come on in,
Johnny. I just had to pay. So that's.
They wouldn't even accept my money. They thought I was Donald Trump.
Oh wow, that's harsh, John. So my impression. So we're talking about the Book Passage Conference. This is north of San Francisco, at Corte Madera, long weekend.
Corte Madera, 15 minutes north of San Francisco.
Yep.
It's August 10 to 14 this summer.
Okay, wow, coming up real quick. My impression is that 25 years ago, people who were attending were retired people from Marin County who wanted to write their memoir. Am I close?
Somewhat. 50% were.
Okay.
But then there were a lot of other people who were young, aspiring travel writers who just wanted to know how to do it, or travel photographers. So it's always been kind of a good mix, age-wise and experience-wise. And it's always fun. I mean, you get the people who've been doing it for a while learn from the people who haven't been doing it, because there's always something new to learn, and the people who haven't been doing it and are just starting learn from the people who've been doing it, and we all learn. The faculty learn from the students learn from each other. It's a pretty wonderful environment, and a lot of lives have been changed by it, and I think that's kind of what I'm proudest about. As the papa of the conference, I'm pretty amazed at all the great things that the graduates have gone on, books and articles and photo books, all kinds of wonderful things have come about as a result of the conference, so that makes me really proud and sort of blown away by the whole thing. Somebody's life has changed every year by the conference.
Who are some of this year's speakers?
So the great Tim Cahill is coming back, and I love him. A guy named Anthony Mara, who's a really great new writer, is coming in. A woman named Wendy Simmons, who wrote a really entertaining, enlightening book about North Korea, is going to be there.
Which book is that?
The title has escaped me right now. Okay. Wendy Simmons is her name, Simmons. I think it's called Honeymoon in North Korea, but I also just made that up, so it may not be what it's called. And Pam Mandel's going to be there. Candace Rose Reardon's going to be there. Larry Habiger from Traveler's Tales. Spud Hilton from the San Francisco Chronicle. Chris Reynolds from the LA Times is going to be there. I'm very happy about that. Yay, Chris! Jim Benning's going to be there. So it's a pretty all-star cast of people. The great photographer Bob Holmes is going to be there as always. So it's a really wonderful gathering of really distinguished people, all of whom are also genuinely good teachers and generous human beings. So that makes it especially fun.
And the book was My Holiday in North Korea, just for those of us who are scoring at home. Go ahead, John.
No, I was going to say exactly what you said, because I Googled it like you did.
Jen
Hey,
Leo
Don,
is raising her hand
I
politely
know because
because she
it's
was
so
raised right by
it's
her
so hard to get a
third
word
grade
in with
teacher
you
here.
guys. Well, I've been to the conference several years, and it's been several years since I've been, and I just wanted to add that one of the wonderful things about it is how intimate it is and how you actually get to connect truly with the speakers. So being an attendee there's several opportunities for you to sit down with the speakers, and that's a really, really rare situation when it comes to conferences, to get to be so close and connect so closely. But also, Don, how many spots are open this year, and do you have any spots left?
We still have spots left. We have about 20 spots left. So get your contact us soon. It's bookpassage.com is the website to find out more about the Travel Writers Conference, and you can actually just sign up for it there. And yeah, I agree, Jen, that one of the wonderful things about the conference is that so much of the learning takes place in the informal interactions between people. And you get to hang out on the conference with someone you've been reading for years, or idolizing, or wanting to get published by, and suddenly it's just the two of you sitting in the piazza under this California sun talking, and people have literally come away from those conversations with assignments, book assignments, article assignments, which is really, really cool. So I love that part of it. And there's formal workshops in the morning, there's panels in the afternoon, there's readings and on-stage conversations at night, but so much of what happens at the conference is the interstices between those things, where stuff happens, where you just sit down and talk with somebody, and suddenly you've got something great new in your life, a new assignment, which, yeah, I love that.
And Book Passage is such an epicenter for travel writers, because if they haven't been to an author event there, they might go to a reading, and later on in their career they might be reading there themselves, reading their own books themselves. And what a wonderful place it is for that.
That's happened to so many people.
Sorry, go ahead, Don.
I was just going to say the alumni bookshelf now has about probably 36 books on it. People who've been students at the conference and now published books, so that's pretty nice.
I was going to say, Johnny and I are going to be speaking next week at the TBEX conference in Stockholm, and frankly, as a speaker, I appreciate the security that keeps the riffraff away for the speakers in that velvet rope there. I really think that's what I crave as a speaker. So,
Dawn, are you doing anything special for this big anniversary? Is there going to be any recognition of the anniversary?
There's going to be a big party Saturday night. So normally Saturday night is an onstage conversation. Usually it's me interviewing an author. But this year we just decided to do storytellings, Book Passage storytelling, celebrating 25 years. So Tim Cahill and I and Bob Holmes and some of the people who've been coming for many years are going to start off telling stories, and then we're just going to have everyone who wants to tell a Book Passage story come up, and we're going to have cake and champagne and just celebrate 25 great years. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's going to be fun to have all these stories, things that were born because of Book Passage. Great careers started or new lives transformed. So that's going to be the celebration. It's just going to be a lot of people telling great stories, which is what we do anyway.
And is that night open to past alumni or only to the students?
Absolutely. No, it's open to everybody. It will be a grand globe-embracing celebration, so everybody's welcome.
I actually got to see Tim a week and a half ago or so. I was out in Idaho, and I drove over to Livingston and got to see him in his home, and he gave me a tour of Livingston, and it was really nice to see him in his town.
In his element. That's really great. Yeah.
Now you were mentioning.
I love him. Like you. I love him.
And Don, you were mentioning being the father of this project and how important that was to you. Johnny's got a different project that he's working on that he's going to be the father of, in a more traditional sense.
Right.
So, Johnny, are you planning on changing the Johnny Jet brand to family travel here over the next 18 years, or how is this going to affect you?
I'm going to be a daddy blogger.
Well, you are, whether you want.
You will indeed.
Well, and the other thing, I mean, to
Yeah.
be completely serious, it will change your perspective on the world in ways that are
Yeah.
unpredictably immense.
I've heard, and I'm looking forward to it actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but
No,
this is going to
it's such a
change
totally
schedules and everything else. I know Natalie is already coming up to the got to get off the road time frame here.
Yes. So I learned a lot just about pregnancy. So
Well, yes, you will.
she can travel up to 28 weeks for pleasure, for work, 32 weeks for pleasure, and she's at week 26 or 26 right now. So she's only got a couple more weeks of travel.
So, do you have a plan for how this will change? I mean, do you have a clue how this will change JohnnyJet.com?
I will definitely have more family stories and things like that. So, but I mean, I'll continue writing about travel deals and, ways to use your miles and tips. My big thing is travel tips.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll continue to do that. But you'll definitely see more family style tips as well.
Yay!
I'll have to bring Jen in there. Be my ghostwriter.
Yeah, Jenny, you have a perspective on this because you were in travel, way before Cora was born, but you're not doing the same thing now that you were doing then.
Well, I've never really been that kind of travel writer that spin the globe, go out there, grab the story.
No, right.
I've never had that luxury too much. So most of mine has been consumer travel, but I have gotten out more actually since I've been more of a mom and a family travel writer. So I think I've probably done more. I did some solo traveling beforehand, and then I did all the Traveler's Tales book editing with the Sand in My Bra series, and then I did the LA Times blog, which was consumer and here.
And when you say consumer, you mean similar to what Johnny was talking about with tips and deals and those sort of things?
Right, and news. When I was with
news.
LA Times, it was very news-based. And so now, actually, I've done probably a little bit more loose adventure travel since having Cora because of who she is and what kind of a person she is. So now I look for different kinds of trips based on what she would like, and she becomes the driver. And just the other day we were talking about what's on the top of her list right now, because a couple years ago she wanted to go to the Brazilian rainforest, and now she wants to go to Tasmania to look for the Tasmanian tiger, which she which people think is extinct, but other people have said it's not quite extinct, and so she wants to go looking for it. And at the same time, she met somebody through her Boys and Girls Club who lived in D.C., and that's influenced her. And so on one hand, she wants to go look for the Tasmanian tiger, and on the other hand, she wants to go see the White House. And she's 7, and these thoughts never crossed my mind. Plus, she's an adventure junkie, and so I'm looking for whale watching experiences in the San Juan Islands or Newfoundland, or she's talking about monarch butterfly migration. So I'm like, okay, when can we go to Mexico to see them, see the big monarch butterfly thing? So I think a lot of my travel is driven by her current interests.
Well, I completely can relate to that because, they're not home, and this is true for you too, Johnny, they're not home as long as you may think. They pretty soon they grow up and they're, working for nonprofits in Washington, D.C. So
someone told me you have 18 summers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If that.
Right. And the thing is, my daughter, who's now 29, was home the other day, and we were talking about her life and career, and she literally thinks that she's a marine biologist, and she still believes to this day that she became a marine biologist because of a trip we made to the Galapagos, where she went swimming with sea lions.
Wow.
And that changed her life, she says. That just totally changed her life. And I get goosebumps thinking about that travel can have that kind of an effect on somebody.
My daughter is off to a conference in Nepal because, as you're in the space, underfunded tropical diseases space, Nepal is one of those places where they're doing a conference, and then she's off for a 3-day trek around Nepal on as long as she's doing business travel, she's going to take some time off and she likes to travel. I don't know where she comes by it, but
You don't know where
Yeah,
she
really.
gets it
I
from.
don't know how that happened.
That's just bizarre.
I should say, my son, on the other hand, when he hit his senior year of high school, he said, I'm done traveling with you guys. I don't care if Europe's got another cathedral. I don't need to see it. And, there was a Hawaii clause in there. If you're going to Hawaii, let me know, because I'd love to come with you.
Did that break your heart, Chris?
Well, it did. It didn't completely surprise us, because he was a homebody and stuff like that. The funny thing was, when he was in college, then he works down in Hollywood, and he was doing video editing and audio editing. So he needed an internship and hadn't got, at that point in his life, he was not as ambitious and as he is now, actually. And so he actually ended up being my intern editing Amateur Traveler for a few years. And it was funny because he's listening to all these travel shows, and the time that he sent me back the show and said, "Wow, where was it? It was Africa, and it was Namibia." He said, "Wow, Namibia sounds like a lot of fun." It's like, who are you, and what have you done with my son? and he's now relented from his travel ban, and we've gone with him to China and Bosnia and Croatia and places. But he enjoys it again now. But he needed a break. And
Don, how old were you when you took your daughter to the Galapagos? Because I've been trying to figure out what the right age is for that. Not to mention, figuring out the price tag. That's a pretty big savings adventure there.
Yeah, my daughter was 14.
You were 14, or your daughter was 14?
I was 14. I was 14. My daughter was 14. So that was a perfect age for her. It was a great age. My son was 10. So that was a great age for both of them. They were old enough to do everything and understand what was going on, still young enough that it had a huge impact on them. So you've still got a few years.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yes.
I think we did one international trip when our kids were really little. We took my son as a baby to London, him in a stroller and the bottles and all that. And then we didn't do international travel for years. But I suspect Johnny's kid...
Wow.
My kid's going to be born with a backpack on.
Might be a little different.
Right.
Well, Natalie needs the backpack, Johnny. That was probably the first family travel tip I learned, was that you need your arms for the baby. And so you can't be having one of those single sling diaper bags because it doesn't free up your arms enough. The backpacks are really good.
Post on Johnny Jet about
really good getting through the airports. You need that. You need both arms and then 2 more arms.
And our rule by the time they were 3 is, if you bring it, you carry it.
I like that rule. I'm writing these down. So, need arms.
Need arms. Johnny, where have you been? Where have you been recently, and where are you headed next?
Man, I've been all over. I've been just looking at the calendar, going every weekend I've been somewhere. So I was in Europe, flew home from Europe, took my dad to the Kentucky Derby. And
in Europe, just in general, you don't really know what country you were in?
I can't remember. I've been a few times, and I think that trip was we were on a Viking ocean cruise, actually.
I'm doing that in.
Were you on that?
Which one were you on?
Lisbon to Paris.
Okay.
So,
I'm doing the Baltic cruise in 2 weeks. My wife is joining me on the 17th, and we're really excited about it. Honestly, this is going to be the highlight of the year in terms of travel.
It's a beautiful ship. I'm jealous. Yeah. And then all right, we went to New Orleans for IPW. I think I saw you there. I can't remember where I saw you.
I wasn't
there. We were in Hawaii for a baby moon. We went to Alaska for the weekend.
And IPW, not everybody who listens knows what you're talking about, but you're talking about a
international powwow, big conference, big travel conference, the biggest one that brings all the travelers to the U.S. That is like really the main focus of it. So people from all around the world are there, and now I'm in Connecticut, visiting my dad, and about to head out on the road in a couple days to go see you, Chris.
That's really the draw, yeah. Well, we're going to do a little shorter show because we do have some time constraints. So I'm going to ask who brought a tip with us this week.
I got a pocket full
Jen
of tips.
raises her hand because that's who she is.
Well, I got to finally spend a couple days in Vegas, so I came back with some Vegas tips, which I haven't had in a long time. The food scene in Vegas continues to explode. It's always changing. It's always improving, and
always getting more expensive.
not necessarily. I went to some.
Interesting.
I went to some good, cheaper places. We like to find foodie locations that are off the strip, where if you don't want to spend $200 to $400 at a celebrity chef restaurant, you don't have to. But a good resource for what's hot right now is Eater, for whatever American big city that you're in. So Vegas.eater.com, and they have what's called a heat map. And they can tell you what's hot right now. So when you go to Eater Vegas, you can see the 22 hottest restaurants in Las Vegas right now. But the two that I went to, one going through Vegas and one coming back, was Chow. I love downtown Las Vegas, just love it. And Chow was a bit of a part Chinese, part Southern food place on Fremont Street, very close to
now I don't know
El
whether to
Cortez.
spell it C-H-A-U Chinese way or C-H-O-W.
C-H-O-W, Chinese Southern soul food. And it was good. And then also we went to the Other Mama, which was, I don't really remember where that was. That was off the strip out in the southwest. And it was an Asian fusion place, but really hipster and definitely going a good happy hour place. So so we like to look for some off-strip foodie haunts. And as far as hotels go, we tried a new hotel for us we hadn't been to. I chose the Monte Carlo, which is usually a pretty downscale hotel. But because it was summer and for Cora, it has a lazy river and a wave pool. So we chose to stay there, and I was really impressed with the location. The location was just terrific. We got the cheapest room, and the room plus the resort fee plus the very new valet fee. They are now charging, a lot of the hotels are charging to park your car when you're staying there, so that's new. The location was great. It was an easy walk to Aria, and then also over to New York, and to Excalibur. So staying at a lower budget hotel was really interesting. So Monte Carlo was fine, very different from the upscale resorts, but very middle of the road. Then you went to New York, which was very similar to Monte Carlo. And then I took her to the Tournament of the Kings, which is like a Renaissance-type dinner at Excalibur, because she's 7 and there's a castle and a Hershey's store and the Tournament of Kings. And there you're getting pretty down market at Excalibur. So we were seeing, possibly drunk college guys without their shirts on as you're walking through the lobby. So, there is
that will have more attraction to her later.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to go to Excalibur because of the arcade. They've got a great arcade. They've got the Tournament of Kings, but I did feel like I needed to keep an extra close eye on her, even more so at Excalibur. But Monte Carlo, if you're on a budget, it was nice, and they've got this new newish. It's been there a little while. Boulevard that is off the strip. So off the strip, you have this nice pedestrian walkway next to all sorts of restaurants and a few shops, including a very top-notch coffee house called Samba Latte.
They're going to give it a whole facelift, aren't they, Monte Carlo? I just met with them at IPW.
Yeah, so they're actually turning to they're going to start working it towards an upscale wing of the MGM brand. So they are working. I think that kind of renovation stuff begins in October, possibly. But if you want a cheap deal now,
Jen, do you think that Las Vegas is still a family destination? There was a time when they were trying to promote that. Are you still
Do you
That
think Las
thinking
Vegas was ever a family destination?
They did try to do it, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Vegas is an everybody destination, and that's me because I love it so much. But if there's people that just say, "Oh, I don't like Vegas," the gambling is so much downplayed now, which is I think why we're getting into these other fees, because people are not spending their money at the tables, and you see that it's going from table games to slots, and more slots. And a lot of the slot machines have modernized so that you can see TV characters and movie characters on them. And so I think that draws people in. I saw a slot machine that had a little mini sofa attached to it where you could charge your phone, and I hadn't seen that before.
That's scary, actually. Because you're going to be there a long time.
Well, and then people do the bottle service, so it kind of was like, in terms of mine, in my lifetime, it was gambling. Then it was family. Mm-hmm. Then it went through that whole foreclosure, and the sort of the titty billboards got replaced with foreclosure and home sale signs. And then it went into kind of the party scene with the table service and the bottle service and all of that. And now, I don't know what it would be now, but it's probably more... I don't know, but there's something for everyone, Don. If somebody says they don't like Vegas, I can find a spot for you.
Don or Johnny, do you have a tip for us?
We'll let Don go.
Well, I was in Japan in April, and then I spent most of May and June finishing up a Lonely Planet book here. So a new anthology that's coming out in November. So I actually got to know my hometown in a better way than I normally do, and that's the whole Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland. Oakland is really booming. Of course, they like to call it the new Brooklyn, but Oakland has a real vibe to it, and a lot of great restaurants opening up, a lot of great cultural stuff going on. So San Francisco, of course, is the #1 city in my heart, but people who come to San Francisco should definitely make time to come over to Oakland, too, because there's so much happening. It's a really eye-opening city right now. It's great. It's a great vibe, great energy. Not a bad basketball team, and really, yeah.
Well, yeah, but
about 10 more years, we're going to dominate.
The basketball team is moving to San Francisco.
Are they moving to San Francisco?
That's what I just heard.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Well, Oakland has something that San Francisco will never have. That's the view of a beautiful city.
Don, I was in Oakland in April.
A beautiful city. Boom. Yes.
Don, I was in Oakland, I think in April, and is it the Hive? What's that part that's downtown that has become another little foodie center?
I don't know.
Is it called the Hive?
Uptown. I've heard it's called Uptown. There's an area called Uptown that's got a whole bunch of really intense concentration of really great new restaurants.
There's a couple food walking tours in Oakland now. I haven't had a chance to go on one yet, but I'm interested in doing it. I met a couple at a Travel Massive meetup. I met some people who are doing food walking tours.
I did an urban wine tour, a bike tour.
Oh, really? Okay.
Urban bike tour, urban wine bike tour in Oakland.
That sounds like the beginning of that would be really fun, and the end of it would be really dangerous.
And I had a very good barbecue meal with Don a couple of years ago. I don't remember. The place.
Well, I know that barbecue was involved in the one food tour I was looking at. So.
Yes.
Excellent, Johnny. What'd you bring for us?
What did I bring for you? So a lot of people are going to Europe this time of year. So my advice is to do some research ahead of time of all these scams, especially if you're not very familiar with the different scams that take place. I got scammed one of my first trips to Europe about 20 years ago in Budapest. Some college girls said, "Hey, you want to go go out and have a drink?" And my buddies are like, "Yes," and I'm like, "All right, I'll go." Pretty girls, we'll get a drink. We went to a bar. There's no one in the bar. They order around. Then the bill comes, and it's 10 times what it should be. And they're like, "Oh my God!" They were shocked. We were shocked. Everyone's pulling out money. They wouldn't accept credit cards. They walked one of my buddies to the ATM. These huge dudes
who showed up
and the
out of
girls
nowhere. I'll bet.
Yeah, and the girls, they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry," and they pulled out, they put in 50 euros, or whatever it was back then, and anyway, we got out. My buddy's like, "We just got scammed." I was like, "Those girls weren't part of that." He's like, "This, they were." So the next day, we went back, camped out in front of this bar. Sure enough, those two girls came back with the two other guys. And I was heartbroken. But anyway, you find these scams all around the world.
And they've been doing that one still. I've heard of that happening recently. So that one's been working for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I looked at the State Department website on Hungary, and sure enough, that scam was listed. The bar was listed, and I was kicking myself for not doing the research. So also, not only look at the U.S. State Departments, but look at Australia's, Canada's, United Kingdom sites for different kinds of scams. And you'll see it all over. So
do you have a scam resource page on your site yet, Johnny?
No, I just write about. I have a daily tip newsletter, and so in some of my tips are definitely on these scams. So that's one of them.
I got two tips for you. One is, since we get Johnny here, I was impressed. We went with Gary. Gary did a small travel conference at Snowmass outside of Aspen in Colorado, and I was really impressed with that property and that experience, and I think that was some of the best service I have seen at a hotel, and I'd really never heard of that particular hotel, but beautiful area. That was a great conference too. Viceroy, yeah, thank you, and the Snowmass Viceroy Hotel. But then I just got back from 2 weeks in Germany. Basically, I was there with the German Tourism Board getting ready for the 500th anniversary of the Reformation, which is next year. And I've got a whole episode on Amateur Traveler about a road trip through Lutherland in the heart of Germany. But I had a really terrific time, and I was in most of the time in what used to be the old GDR. And so, kind of from Wittenberg down to Eisenach. And I was just really surprised how many really beautiful, interesting cities were there, and just so much history. And as a history buff, but I was, it wasn't what I expected, because I hadn't really been to that part of Germany since shortly after the wall fell. And I remember, driving past Magdeburg, which was this ugly Soviet-style town, and thinking that was, what used to be East Germany, and just had a terrific time on this trip. Did run into fewer people who spoke English, in that part of Germany, and a lot of cities that lost a third of their population when the wall fell because of the jobs going away and such. So they're, even to this day, they're still struggling a bit there, but gorgeous, gorgeous areas. Was there for a couple festivals. You'll hear more about it if you listen to that Amateur Traveler episode, but quite interesting. Even if you're not somebody who cares about the Reformation thing, it's definitely an area worth visiting. So we're going to wind this one down so that people can run off. Jen, what's new? Where can we find you on the internet, and what's new?
I'm still writing for the LA Times with my WebBuzz column, and you can find that on their travel page. I'm also writing for local stuff at yournorthcounty.com, which is a regional San Diego magazine, and I'm enjoying that. Getting in touch with, like Don, more local stuff.
And Johnny, what's new on the newly rebranded Have Baby Will Jet?
I just continuing to put out some good information, travel tips and news and deals on johnnyjet.com. So I'm doing that. I also write for a few different publications, not too much. I do Porthole magazine. I do Leo Laporte's podcast every week. The Tech Guy. And
what's the most surprising deal you found this week?
I just saw there's been deals to Asia for $550 round trip, and Europe for like $650 from the West Coast.
We just saw a deal to South Africa for just over $500 come through last week.
I saw that one.
Yeah, it really seems like there are more airline deals this summer.
And you got to gobble them up, because they're not going to be like this next summer. I think the airlines are going to start to consolidate again. But you can also find really good business class deals as well.
I'm wondering if people are afraid to travel again. I haven't seen whether the numbers are down or not, but it's going to depend a lot on what happens there.
I have a bonus tip.
Oh, all right.
In addition, I mean, Johnny is so on top of flight deals. When I see those pop up in my email, he is on it. So definitely go subscribe to Johnny's newsletter. But I have a new favorite service in addition to Johnny's called DealRay. Do you guys know about DealRay? DealRay, yeah, DealRay is a subscription-based travel site and app where they text you the deals, but it's very, very minimal. They're only going to text you really, really, really great deals, like that South African one, DEAL
RAY.
RAY, I think. Let me just check that. DealRay. But to get it in your text box as it's happening, and you can decide if you just want international from your city or if you also want domestic. But I think they charge, there is a free version, you get a free month, and then after that, I think it's around $10 a month. You're going to have to double check that. But just go to dealray.com and you will see the kind of deals that they're telling you about, their past deals. But this has probably been my favorite deal alert service because they're only giving you really, really great ones, and it's coming straight to your smartphone.
Good. I'm looking at it right now.
Don, where can we learn more about what you're doing online and Book Passage, the conference?
So the Book Passage conference at bookpassage.com, and just click under conferences for the Travel Writers and Photographers Conference. And my big thing right now, I just finished the Lonely Planet anthology, which comes out in November, and now I'm working on the 4th edition of Lonely Planet's Guide to Travel Writing. So I'm updating that.
The man who wrote the book on travel writing.
The man who wrote the book. Yes, and for more information on me, don-george.com.
And Don, you can't leave without telling us about your book.
My book. Thank you. My book came out last fall. It's still going strong. I'm still doing events for it. It's called The Way of Wanderlust, the best travel writing of Don George. It was brought out by the wonderful folks at Traveler's Tales, and it collects 35 stories from my 40 years as a travel writer and editor. And yeah, I mean, that just changed my life. Having that book in the world is, after my kids, that's the best thing I've done. And it feels so great. And just kind of whenever I give it to people, I feel like I'm giving a little piece of my life to them, a little piece of my soul. And it's nice to have that book out in the world. So thank you for mentioning it. The Way of Wanderlust, the best travel writing of Don George.
Excellent. And I'm Chris Christensen from Amateur Traveler. The latest episode of Amateur Traveler that just went up yesterday was on Greenland, and with Matthew Karsten, the expert vagabond. The expert vagabond came on the Amateur Traveler, and I don't know what you get when you mix those two, but excellent. Shorter episode, but beautiful, beautiful pictures. Matthew's a great photographer, so. With that, we're going to say get out there and travel, and watch when you go to Hungary who you're buying drinks for. But go out and travel anyway.